Hello, my name is Alex Trevino. I just want to tell you guys a little bit about my life and my testimony and what God has done in my life. I remember growing up, my childhood wasn't crazy, but I just remember at 6 and 7 years old, I started realize I wasn't raised with my real parents. I started wanting to go with my mother. I was torn apart and just wanting love from my mother. And I just remember I would go visit her and experience the difference of life, the drugs, the alcohol atmosphere. And it just instantly got my attention. And I hated it at first, but by the age of 12, I became exactly what I hated. I was a full-on alcoholic. I was already drinking every day, and everything just started escalating quick. I just got involved with the wrong crowd, gang members, drugs, and selling crack cocaine, and just instantly I got locked up at 13. I ended up doing 4 years. I went to juvenile facilities. I kept getting in trouble. Just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, so I just tried to fit in. I tried to let out all my anger the best way I could, and at 17, I was about to get released, and I started getting sick every day, and I was diagnosed with cancer, leukemia, all through my blood. And I remember that was the first encounter with God that I had. I remember yelling at God, and I just didn't understand everything. And just one day, I ran out of breath. I had an allergic reaction to penicillin, and my throat clogged. I couldn't breathe through my nose, and there was just doctors surrounding my bed. And I just remember the only thing I could do was cry out to God. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So I remember blocking out everybody, and I just remember crying, God, don't let me die right here. And I just remember blacking out, and I died for like a couple seconds, and they hit me with this adrenaline shot, and it just instantly woke me up. And just the first thing I thought was like, man, God is real. And I was delivered from cancer, and but I still went right back to the streets. I got out, and I met my wife, girlfriend at the time, and she moved in, and we ended up having my first child. I wasn't ready for it, but I knew I wanted to be there, so I was trying to change, but at the same time, I started drinking again, started smoking. This time, I started using bigger drugs, cocaine, crystal meth, whatever I can get my hands on, and it just escalated quick, right back with the same crowd. My wife left, and we had a bad breakup for like a whole year. And I just remember during that time, it got really worse. I felt heartbroken now. I didn't have my child. He wasn't even born yet. And I just remember wanting to kill my wife. I remember getting a gun, and I was planning it, and I was driven by cocaine. And I just remember somebody told me, like, you kill her, you're killing your own child. And it tore up my heart because, my father wasn't there growing up. So I was like, no, I'm going to fight the right way. And I ended up getting locked up because fighting with the police. And I was drinking heavy. I tried to commit suicide before that. My best friend just passed away all within that year of our breakup. Just things were just going downhill quick. And I ended up back locked up. I was facing major time. And I just was like, man, I'm back at the same spot as I was when I was facing cancer. And it was just like, all I could do was cry out to God again. Like, man, God, you delivered me from death, yet I'm still doing nothing with my life. And I just remember asking God to restore my life again. And instantly, he began to start restoring everything. My wife came and visited me, which she had wanted nothing to do with me at first. And you just kept seeing the hand of God. So it was like, when I got out this time, I was like, I got to do my best. And I didn't know how to walk the walk. I didn't know how to live for God. All I had was my Bible. And I tried, but I just kept falling. So I remember when we got out, I tried to do good, and I just kept drinking. Me and my wife were fighting. But it was different this time. We were trying to make it work. And, I had my child now, so I was, it gave me a little hope. But I was still empty inside. I knew I was missing something. And we were trying to do good. We were trying to read help books. And just remember one day I just had enough. I came home, and from school, I couldn't work. I couldn't hold a job. I was trying to do good. And My wife said she got saved. She said she did a sinner prayer. She didn't even know what it was. That she felt different, and she said the Potter's House was going to have a concert. And at that time, I was in my little pity party. I was like, man, I don't want to go. But we ended up going, and that's where my life changed. I remember walking to that outreach, and they were doing skits about gangs and a husband fighting his wife drunk, and everything they did was like a picture of my life. So I just remember sitting there like, man, all right, God, I hear you. And just that day, I did the sinner prayer. I gave my life to Christ, and I can remember that day like no other. It was like my burdens and all my guilt, everything that I was wondering and questioning, it was like all this guilt just came off my chest over one prayer, and I felt delivered. I remember going back home. I didn't even know what happened, but I just didn't crave alcohol. I didn't crave drugs, and we couldn't stop drinking. We already tried. So to be in that kind of atmosphere, I was like, whoa, what is this? And we ended up going to church the next day, and it was a revival. And I just remember just hitting the altar every service, and I never cried so much in my life. I just hit the altar, and I just remember all the times I rejected God. And it's so much easier just to surrender. And I want to encourage anybody who's listening, I know it's not easy, but if you surrender, you can literally build your life on God. And me and my wife started from nothing. We were about to sleep in our vehicle, and just, man, I'm about to cry. Just to be able to build your life back on God and just come to Him and just learn the Word of God and apply it to your life and realize He can fix everything. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this, just cry out to God, get a hold of God, and come to Him. I mean, ever since we got saved, it hasn't been the easiest road, but just holding on to God, it's so much easier to trust in Him. And man, we were bouncing house to house, from hotel to hotel, about to sleep in our van, and God just kept opening doors. We've never went homeless. We now have our own apartment. We have our own vehicles. We have things that we never had. And now I got a good job, making more money than I ever seen. It's just amazing what God could do, all in a couple years span of time. And I'm gonna keep trusting God. I got a vision to preach now. I want to go preach the gospel. And just God put this in my heart, and I'm just thankful for what He's done. Amen. Amen.